How did I learn English? I started having English class since I was in elementary school. The truth that the first 2 years we have stable teachers. They were from the USA. They were actual teachers, and the level was quite good. But once we start the third level of school, we start to have teachers that were young tourists, and they were not actually teachers. They stayed in the school for 1 or 2 months, and they changed, so it was a little bit messy. And as good Chiapanecos, the truth is that we didn't care about English at the time, and we keep repeating the same thing over and over and over, or without moving too much forward. However, after repeating things over and over, things from here and there get stuck in your mind, and you have like a basic structure, learning structure. It's a lame or a crappy one, but a structure nevertheless. Middle school, concentration and execution. Once we arrived to the middle school, we once again start to have English teachers that were from the USA, and they were actual teachers, know how to teach English classes. So that was a huge improvement from before. Also, during the pass between elementary school to middle school, computers start to have the first translator that were not that good and made a lot of mistakes, but they were the first tools, so they were quite effective. So when I write things first in Spanish to translate it in English, and even if they were quite simple things like talking about a crocodile, his flakes or whatever, it was a huge improvement. And every time there was a word that I did not understand, I looked for it in the dictionary, English-Spanish dictionary that was ginormous. In my house. Or I asked people that knew some English, what's the meaning of this thing? What does that mean here and that there? So that helped me a lot I think maybe the dictionary and asking to people about the language helped me more than the actual translator in the computer. Moral of the history is, if you have a doubt about any subject, ask for it, look for it. Don't get the doubt stuck in your head. Look for the answer. That's the best advice I can give to you. Another factor that had a lot of influence in me improving and wanting to learn more English is that from 2003 on, and maybe even before, I start to listen more to Korn music, to Limp Bizkit music, and also to Offspring music. And also in the year 2004, they opened a Mix-Up store in Tuxtla Gutierrez, the capital of Chiapas. Mix-Up is a store you could buy or get any CD and or any DVD at the time, almost anyone. So I wanted to have it almost, buy those CDs, but I also wanted to understand the lyrics of what were all those crazy guys yelling all about. And I started to learn and put more attention on the lyrics. However, then I discovered that the Limp Bizkit lyrics doesn't make too much sense anyway.
Chocolate starfish and the hot god flavored water.
So I keep singing, sometimes mistaking or misinterpreting the lyrics, but I didn't care all that much because they didn't make too much sense anyway. That's nu metal. En la segunda mitad de los 2000, el internet se estaba haciendo más accesible en San Cristóbal. No solo en las cibercafés, también en las casas aún en las montañas. In the second half of the 2000s, internet was starting to become more accessible everywhere. Not only in cyber cafes, also in the houses, even in the mountains. At some moment, at the end of 2004 or early 2005, I find this in Mix-Up. The entire collection of Nightmare on Elm Street. But it was only in English with subtitles for people with listening problems. So, and I tell my father, Dad, please buy me this collection. And he was, oh, come on, kid, it's only in English. But I was, oh, come on, Dad, I already know the history and I know some English, and reading the subtitles plus watching it, I can learn more English, and yeah, I know it. I know already the history. And my father finally accept, and he was like, okay, it's for your birthday. It will be your birthday present. And he also accepted because he also loved Nightmare on Elm Street series. So we watched it together. And while we were watching the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I discovered that I actually understand a lot of English, and while I was watching it, I was learning super fast simultaneously. It was impressive. So I can proudly say that Freddy Krueger was one of the best English teachers I ever have. Allá del 2005 al 2008 aproximadamente fue mi época de terror, slasher, donde vi las películas de Freddy Krueger, Jason, Viernes 13, Halloween, Destino Final y todas esas. Between 2005 and 2008, that was my terror slasher period, teenager with blood, when I went to see all those horror movies of Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Friday the 3rd, Final Destination, etc. In 2007, while I was looking for Friday the 30th videos on YouTube with Jason and all those stuffs, I somehow find an Angry Nintendo Nerd video. The Angry Nintendo Nerd, which later became the Angry Video Game Nerd, was a YouTuber from the USA that keeps cursing all the time, yelling and making poop jokes, pee jokes, and a lot of violent, disgusting, idiotic teenage humor, which I love it. Which, of course, as a teenager, I loved that humor. That was so stupid, and helped me better understand the gringo mindset, the gringo humor, as well as the slang and how to say stuff, practical stuff, everyday language, street language, and it was great. I learned super fast a lot of things. Also, it was a super important inspiration to make videos. Of course, I started to make videos almost 20 years later. I saw the first Angry Video Game Nerd video, but still was a huge inspiration. He was a YouTuber before YouTubers even existed, and he helped me to understand a lot of English and a lot of quote in English, like "what a shitload of fuck." And I start to say that sometimes. It was super funny. Well, I think it a lot of stuff like that. And yeah, so I can say, James Rolfe, thank you. You were one of my best English teacher. See you, mate. And now, the thing that everybody was waiting for, the heart, dating, and all those stuffs. Well, first, when I was in high school, I started to think, well, I want to have friends from all around the world. I want to be able to communicate with other people. And I learned French since I was a kid, and that's why at the beginning I didn't care too much about English, because I was thinking, well, if I ever go to live elsewhere, it's probably going to be France. So and everybody knows that French people doesn't speak English. But now I was in Mexico and I was in high school, and I was like, whoa, I need to be able to communicate. So that was a huge motivation to learn even more practical talking and English and stuff like that. And also because I was thinking, well, I want to be able to have girlfriends, güeritas, and girls from gringas or from all around the world. So that was a huge, perhaps the most important motivation to learn English. All of this to discover that Mexicans are so charismatic that they don't learn English to communicate with güeras
Or gringas for all around the world. Even from the 70s on.
It was known that las güeras come to Acapulco to find their boat, their man driving a small boat, a small lancha in Acapulco. Haven't changed a bit from then. But I started to have some contacts with tourist girls or foreign girls at the end of the high school, 2007, 2008 more or less, but it didn't went full scale until after university between 2015 or 16, more or less. That's where I went full scale. My final advice to learn any language is to learn a language, you need to like it, you need to have an interest for that language, or you need to need it. If you don't like it, you don't have any interest in, and you have no need to learn it, you are probably not going to learn it even if you have the best teacher of the world. But if you have the motivation you want, and you know the value of learning more languages, you already helped the way around. So do it, man. It's totally worth it. Unless you're a Mexican and you don't need to learn it.